Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in to this YouTube channel. So a little bit about myself. My name's Ella Jones and I'm a student at Bangor University studying my Masters in Counselling. This is my dissertation presentation. My dissertation title is More Than an Ending, a qualitative exploration of identity, adjustment and mental well-being. So, from the research and the literature already out there, retirement has been highlighted as a major life transition. It's often associated with this idea of freedom and relaxation and increased personal time. However, retirement can involve disruption to identity, loss of routine and structure, and reduced social connections with others. The World Health Organization has also identified aging, loneliness, and social isolation as a growing um, public health concern for older people who are entering retirement. This study, therefore, aims to explore how individuals personally experience retirement in relation to their identity and their mental well-being. So, moving on and looking at the literature and theoretical framework, retirement has been linked to loneliness, lower well-being, and that loss of purpose. According to the role identity theory, identity has been shaped through social roles. Retirement may disrupt this occupational identity. So, when the role of worker is removed during retirement, individuals may experience that disruption of sense of who they are and that identity. And work roles provide purpose, meaning, and social value. This is more commonly seen in people that work in the NHS or have those caring roles. They kind of like merge together. Also looking at Erikson's psychosocial theory, we're looking at the final stage at this process, which is integrity vs despair. Erikson suggested that later on in life, it often involves reflection on meaning, fulfillment, the regrets and acceptance of aging. So, the overall aim of this study was to explore how retirement influences an individual's sense of identity and mental well-being. More specifically, the study explored how individuals experience adjustment after retirement, how retirement affects identity and a sense of purpose, and how well-being is supported or challenged during this transition. I was also interested throughout this study in understanding the experiences of individuals who had returned to work after retiring, as this can further complicate the transition process. Um, they could be comparing to what one transition felt like compared to what they're experiencing at the time, and this can cause some disruption, especially if one retirement was more stressful than the other. Rather than testing a hypothesis, this study aimed to gain the deeper understanding of the participants' lived experiences and the meanings that they attached to retirement. So now moving on and looking at the methodology in relation to this study. So the study, we used a qualitative research design. We used semi-structured interviews. These were chosen because they allowed the participants the freedom to openly discuss their experiences, while still ensuring that some consistency was maintained throughout the interviews. This was due to multiple researchers within the team conducting these interviews, so it's very important that we kept it very similar, to maintain that consistency. The qualitative approach was particularly appropriate because retirement and identity and well-being are highly subjective experiences that are shaped by personal history, relationships, and individual circumstances. The data was then analysed using reflexive thematic analysis. We all followed Bruin and Clark's approach to this. The inductive approach was used, meaning that the themes emerged more naturally from the participants' personal accounts rather than being based on, a pre-existing assumptions or hypothesis. So this allowed us to really hear the participants' voices and understand their experiences, and for that to remain central throughout the um, analyst process, going through that data and the interviews. So the participants and procedures. So the participants that were involved in this study were adults living in Wales who had either retired within the previous 10 years or had retired and later returned to work. There were 10 interview transcripts that were included within the final analysis, and participants were recruited through posters, social media advertisements, such as Facebook, and word of mouth. The potential participants first completed a screening questionnaire through Side Toolkit, where they received an information sheet and a consent form. Interviews were then conducted online with one of the researchers using Microsoft Teams. At the start of each interview, verbal consent was obtained, and participants were reminded of their right to withdraw at any stage. Following the interview process, participants did receive a debrief that was sent out within the 24 hours and a welfare check to ensure emotional well-being, and there was also additional support added to these emails if the participant needed this. Which leads me on to the ethical considerations. This was really important throughout this research because we were dealing with, people exploring a deep emotional experiences. So there was ethical approval. This was granted by the School of Psychology and Sports Science at Bangor University through the Research Ethics Committee. Confidentiality was remained throughout the study, and all data was securely stored, with identifying information removed during transcription, so no names were included. Because retirement and mental well-being can be emotionally sensitive topics, participants' well-being was carefully monitored throughout the interviews. Participants were reminded that they could pause or stop the interview at any point if it became too difficult for them. As researchers, though, we do bring our own experiences, assumptions, and perspectives into qualitative research. Therefore, it was really important to carry out reflexive practice and collaborative discussions throughout theme development. This helped improve the transparency of the data and depth within the analysis. I personally collaborated with another researcher, and we were able to talk through the different themes to make sure that we were kind of aligning on what we had seen. So on this page is a snippet from my dissertation of my results overview. You may want to pause at this point so you can read the chart that is in the centre. So through the reflexive thematic analysis, 4 main themes were developed, as you can see here, through the participants' accounts. And to the right of the chart are the sub-themes that came out of each one of the themes. These were colour coordinated through my transcripts just to make it easier for me to see and link back to participant quotes at a later date. I began narrowing it down to these 3 sub-theme categories for each main theme. Across all themes, retirement emerged as a highly individual and ongoing process rather than a single fixed event. So on this slide, we're focusing on theme 1 and 2. So the first theme highlighted how retirement experience differed greatly depending on personal readiness and life circumstances. Some participants described retirement as planned and self-directed, which appeared to support a smoother adjustment into retirement. For example, participant 8 described retirement as that final balance between finance and quality of life. However, others did experience retirement more abruptly due to redundancy, organisational changes that meant their job was no longer there, or health concerns. Participant 9 reflected feeling not prepared, which highlighted a lack of control over retirement timing, and that may increase uncertainty and potential distress for the person. The second theme explored identity reconstruction beyond work. Many participants describe work as closely connected to their sense of identity, purpose, and value. Participant 8 asked, "What's my purpose? What's my badge?" highlighting feelings of identity disruption after leaving work. At the same time, several other participants demonstrated continuity in their sense of self. Participant 3 explained that they were still the same person underneath it all. So many participants rebuilt their identity through family roles, volunteering, helping others, and becoming grandparents, like participant 2 mentions there. And the volunteering, there was one participant that was an occupational therapist, and they felt that need of continuing to support others and helping others where they could use their knowledge from their job role that they previously had and support people moving forward in their lives. So that was another aspect of it. So overall, identity did not appear to disappear after retirement, but instead it became re-expressed in different ways, and people, used what they could in other aspects of their life. On this slide, we're looking at themes 3 and 4. So the third theme highlighted the importance of structure, activity, and social connection in supporting well-being. Many participants described here how maintaining routines really helped create the stability and purpose after leaving work. And participants also discussed the importance of staying physically and cognitively active through walking, new hobbies such as golf, and participant 10 shared with us, and social engagement with friends. And participant 5 also shared that keeping busy helps your mind, which suggested a strong relationship between activity and emotional well-being. Social connection was also central throughout participants' accounts. Several individuals discussed the importance of maintaining those friendships to avoid isolation after retirement. So the fourth theme explored aging, health, and changing priorities after retirement. Participants described becoming increasingly aware of aging, mortality, and physical health after retirement. And participant 8 reflected that it makes you realise that you don't know how long you've got, which suggests, this increased awareness of aging and life in general slowing up. Health also became a central priority for many individuals. Some participants actually even described improvements in their mental well-being after retirement from a stressful work environment. They felt much better after leaving work and expressed having that freedom. Participants also described shifting priorities towards relationships, like I mentioned before, of freedom and a better quality of life. One participant stated that time is the currency that I'd rather have more of, which really captured this shift in perspective. And it was just really nice to hear that actually money can't buy you all that time back, and this new perspective on really, focusing in on that quality time. So although aging sometimes created this uncertainty, many participants also describe retirement as more freeing and meaningful to them. So what did the study find? The findings suggested that retirement is far more complex than simply leaving employment. Retirement appeared to be an ongoing psychological and emotional adjustment process, which was shaped by people's individual identities, the relationships that they had with others, health, and their social connection as well. The findings did strongly support role identity theory as well. Many participants described occupational roles as central to their sense of self. Going back to, the person that I spoke about who's an occupational therapist, they kept on that role even though they were no longer employed in that position. They ended up supporting others in the community. At the same time, the findings did also support continuity theory. Participants often maintained important aspects of their identity, such as being caring, helpful, and socially engaged. A lot of the participants that worked in the NHS roles um, went on to do voluntary work, whether that was helping out in different community settings, coffee mornings, um, yeah, multiple voluntary roles, especially with caring and being helpful for to others. And more importantly, well-being appeared to be supported through maintaining their sense of purpose in life, um, social connection with others, meeting up with friends, physical activity, so staying fit, keeping the body moving, um, routines, so getting up in the morning, setting goals for the week, another participant spoke about. And yeah, meaningful use of time. A lot of the participants, spoke about having a new identity as a grandparent, or going travelling with their spouse. So these were quite meaningful things that they were now doing with their time. So overall, retirement was experienced differently by each participant. It highlighted that it was a highly personal life transition that everyone goes through and can be interpreted in different ways and understood differently too. So the implication for counselling from this research relates to, offering that emotional support during retirement to people that are going through this. It highlighted that participants often relied on informal support networks such as family and friends, rather than accessing more professional support. This could have been down to that these emotional difficulties during retirement um, may be normalised or overlooked as something that people may not go through due to the stereotypical expectations of retirement being a more relaxing time. So it'd be really important for other research to look into this. The findings also highlighted the importance of creating more of a supportive space. This is backed up by other literature, where retirees can really explore this identity change that they're going through, the uncertainty that they may have, and like this grief and adjustment difficulties as well. The study also suggests that retirement preparation programs should include psychological well-being and emotional adjustment, not only the financial planning for these individuals. In terms of limitations, the sample size was relatively small and participants were recruited only from North Wales. Additionally, the sample lacked gender balance, meaning the findings may reflect women's experiences more strongly. And subject bias, each researcher has interpreted the findings, and therefore their own biases may come into play with how they viewed the results. However, despite these limitations, the study will still provide valuable insight into the emotional and identity related experiences of retirement. So, to conclude, the findings of this study suggest that retirement is truly more than an ending. Rather than representing a fixed endpoint, retirement emerged as an ongoing process of adjustment where identity, well-being, and priorities continued to evolve over time. Although participants discussed challenges such as identity disruption, health concerns, and isolation, many also described these opportunities for growth, freedom, and reflection, and this renewed sense of purpose. Importantly, the findings suggest that individuals continue to carry important aspects of themselves into retirement, even as these roles and circumstances change from their previous employment roles. Overall, this research offers a more hopeful and human understanding of retirement and highlights the importance of emotional support and social connection and meaningful activity during later life transitions. With appropriate support, retirement can become a meaningful and fulfilling stage of life. So thank you for listening, and I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. throughout my dissertation.